Thanks, Francis. I'd say that I did a substitute for Eileen McCluskey whenever we did a talk on sheep technology, a similar one than this, and I'm doing a substitute for Natasha at this meeting. But I said at that one that the last time I played a little bit of football, and the last time I was a substitute in a match, it ended up with a row, all 30 players and most of the spectators involved. So I said, hopefully there isn't anything that happens tonight that ends up in a row and all the spectators involved. What I wanted to do was reinforce rather than repeat a lot of what Francis had said. Lindsay's going to talk about animal health, and if you're looking at profit, and I suppose we are interested in looking at benchmarking and what farmers do, there's a lot of things that make up the reasons why people either do make some profit or don't make profit. And whenever I'm looking through benchmarking results and averaging them, across all the enterprises, whether it's beef, sheep, dairy, cereals, all of the enterprises, people who are good at their job are making a profit across all the enterprises. And there's variations in that. So what I wanted to do was just reinforce some of the things around feeding. So say Lindsay will talk a little bit about the health, and Francis has talked about the science around feeding. So it's about the practical aspects. So all of those things, you have to have a target. So what are you actually doing? If you're going to buy cattle, what do you want them to do? So just talk a wee bit about the targets. If you have a target, are you achieving it? So you have to monitor, and Francis already said, manage and measure and manage. So looking at weights and condition scores, silage, everybody has, or most people has the silage. You might have a little bit of opportunity to take third or fourth cut, and you might be able to influence a little bit about what you do between now and that goes into influence quality. But by and large, the silage is there. So we'll talk more about what you do with the silage that's there. You're going to have to supplement that silage unless it's exceptional. You're going to have to supplement it with some concentrates, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Mention a wee bit about the options that you might have. You know, a lot of people say they have no influence on the price of beef. So we'll talk a wee bit about whether there are things that you can do to influence the price, and sort of go back to a little bit about what Seamus had said. And I know it's a difficult thing to do to mention budgets, but obviously if you're going to go out and buy cattle, you have to have some idea before you wave your finger on a Saturday in Market Hill about whether there's any chance that whenever you take it back to Market Hill, somebody else is going to pay for it and you're going to be left with money. So what are the targets? And I'm going to rattle through this fairly quickly, so if you have any questions, we'll take them at the end. Francis has already mentioned it. You know, it depends what happened to those animals before. So if you're buying an animal here on a Saturday and somebody has been stuffing it full of meal to make sure that it has a nice bloom on it, then it's not going to do as well as one that hasn't been so well done. I did meet one farmer once who said he relied on other people doing a poor job so that he could do a good job. Now, I can't tell you who his name is in case he buys your cattle here on Saturday, because then it might indicate that you're not doing a good job. So that's compensatory growth. But roughly the targets, if they're fed well, you can get up to 1.5 kilos in continental cattle. You know, traditional cattle, Hereford Angus will do 1.4 up to that. You're probably doing okay if you get 1.2 with continental cattle finishing on 1 kilo a day on traditional. How long are you going to put them in? I mean, there's a tail off. If you put cattle in and start feeding them, you know, you'll get a rise in growth and you'll get good growth for a period and it'll tail off. Again, it depends what happened before. So you probably need to be targeting a maximum of 120 days for a finish, but probably more 60 to 90 days, depending on the type of cattle and what went on beforehand. Seamus has already mentioned about what you're paid for, what you're targeting. Unless you actually handle the cattle in a race, you don't know what backfat or what the fat cover is, what condition score they're in. So you need to do that. So you need to put your hand on their ribs, you need to put your hand across their tail, you need to put the hand in the middle of their back, feel that, get used to doing that. If you don't know how to do it, then come in here some Saturday and there'll be somebody who's good at it, who will show you what to do. or if you join one of the discussion groups, that's one of the things that we'll talk about, and put cattle up a race and actually learn how to do that properly. It is important to do that. The other thing, how many people here, just a quick show of hands, weigh their cattle regularly? Maybe half of the folks. That's very good. But how do you know what the growth rate is? Do you know if the meal that you're giving them, the silage that you're giving them, is actually allowing the animals to perform? So if you don't actually weigh them, how do you know what way they're doing? So it's just a matter of monitoring, measuring. You have the silage in the clamp. If you're going to feed it, how much meal should you feed with it? Well, unless you actually sample the silage, get it analysed, you have no idea whether it's good. And that's more than just rubbing it between your hands and sniffing it and saying, that's powerful stuff. You actually need something tiny bit more scientific than that. So whenever you're doing that, take a proper sample. We're not going into the detail of that, but you have to have a representative sample. So don't just go in and lift a handful of the first bit that you trip over when you're going around the silo. So you can, if the silo's not open, take a proper core, and then you can get it analysed. What are you looking at when you have it analysed? The energy, and Francis has already mentioned energy and protein. So the metabolizable energy, good silage, really good high quality silage will be over 12 megajoules per kilogram dry matter. Crude protein, I know on the slide it says 13, but with good ryegrass, you should probably be aiming for over 14 for really high quality silage. And a dry matter, probably over 28 is still a good dry matter for silage. And you probably don't want it too dry. How many people have their silage analysed so far? Quick show of hands. Not too many silos open maybe, but you need to do that to know what you should feed with it. You'll get, if you do get it analysed, you'll get a report, look at the report, decide whether it's good, bad or indifferent, and then what you're going to do with it. So you will have a report. You know what quality is, how much do you have? So how many cattle can you feed, or have you enough silage to feed the cattle that are in the yard at the minute? Again, we don't go into the detail of this, but a simple maths, length, breadth, height, take into account there's a taper on the front, do the multiplication. Whenever the silage is packed in, it depends on how dry it is, how much of it you can get packed into a square metre. So you can look at the factor. So if it's 30% dry matter, there's 0.6 of a tonne in every square metre. So this silo, 30 metres, 5 metres of a taper at the front, 3 metres high, 10 metres wide. At 30% dry matter, it would hold 585 tonnes. So go through, count your bales, what weight are your bales. If you have a set of scales, set a bale on the scales and work out what it is. It's pretty straightforward. And I say that's simple maths to work out how much you have in the yard. And again, relatively straightforward maths to work out how much you need. So in this example, we worked out 2 small silos and a few bales made. And that would give us, when we work it out, 365 tonnes in the yard, 40 big bullocks, 34 small bullocks, a few heifers and a few cows. And if you do simple maths, 70 tonnes short on this farm. You know that now. It's easier to do something about it. A year like this, where there's a lot of silage, it might be relatively easy to buy silage now. If you get to May next year and it's been snowing most of April, silage might be a bit more expensive. So if you're going to do something about it, the earlier you take action, the more likely you are to be able to do that well. If you're short of silage, who gets the good stuff? That's pretty straightforward. The finishing cattle, get them out as quickly as possible, so give them the best silage. You'll get the best response from finishing cattle. If you've got autumn calf and suckler cows in the house, they need to be well fed if you wanted to get them back into calf. So they get the next best. Younger cattle, Francis talked about compensatory growth. You can afford to let them get slightly poorer silage in the hope that when they go out to grass next year, you can get that compensatory growth on good grass. And again, you can restrict dry cows. So if you have a little bit lesser, you can feed dry cows silage or poor hay or something else that you can buy from some of the feed mills. So do the budgets and work out. Don't just give the first pen the best silage. What are you going to supplement those cattle with? They need protein, energy, and fibre to make sure that the rumen's functioning properly and all of their stomachs functioning, and that they have enough energy to grow, enough energy to put on weight, enough protein to grow, enough energy to lay down some fat, not too much protein so that they are actually laying down fat. So it's a balance of all of that. You look at the ration ingredients. Are you going to buy straights and mix it yourself? Are you going to just buy Mason's number 2 beef or Tully Heron number 2 beef or Fian Valley number 4 beef, whatever it is, store mix or finishing mix? So it depends. You don't have to be that concerned about the science if you're just buying from one of the feed firms. But if you're going to make your own meal, or if you're going to try a simple mix of straights, and that can work out. I was at a business development group meeting last night, and the farmer there has just set up, because he has 300 sows as well, he set up his own feed mill, and the mix that he's making for finishing bulls and finishing steers is costing him about £20 less, and it's a much higher quality, in my opinion, than he would be buying. So it's £20 a tonne less and a slightly better quality meal. So and you can, if you don't have big numbers, you can buy the straights and mix it. There is a program online, and you can get it online from other universities, but we have a calculator online that shows you the relative feed value. So if you're looking at whether some straights are better value than others, you can do that. So at the minute, dried barley in around £175 a tonne as an energy source, and soya as a protein source around £320 a tonne. So what are those other straights worth against that? Sorry. So we're looking here, rapeseed meal is worth about 270, maize distillers about 240 against soya at 320. So at the price that you can buy them at, they're good value. You just need to take into account there's some restrictions on how much of those types of things you can feed. Wheat at £180 a tonne isn't good value against barley at 175. Maize meal, if you're feeding a lot of silage, it's about equivalent to barley. If you're feeding maize gluten to growing cattle, it's good value at £190 a tonne, which is around what it is at the minute. So that's available online, and if you can go in and check that. So you can price the straights and see whether it's good value to buy them or not if you're buying a bit of it. If you're buying meal from any of the companies that don't have to put the metabolizable energy on the label, they'll put crude protein, ash, oil, and a couple of other things on the label, but they don't have to put energy. So they can say this is a 17% ration that's great for growing cattle. Whenever you actually look at the energy, those feeds are very different. So just be careful, and if you are talking to some of the feed reps, get them to tell you everything about the meal that you're buying. And if they're not prepared to tell it to you, there's a reason for that, in my opinion. So there's nothing that should be in it that you should be concerned about. Get people to tell you that. Different blends, no point in going into the detail, but different blends have different things in them. Depends what's flavour of the month, what's cheap. But do ask what's in the feed. In terms of the practicalities, what I'm saying on this, you all know, but I would ask you to go home, whenever you go home or whenever you get up in the morning and check the cattle, are all of these things just the way you would like them to be? So is the food that they're getting completely fresh? It's not put out on top of the stuff that was there from 3 weeks ago. Or the water in is the water in all the drinkers completely clean? You can't underestimate, especially if you're feeding a lot of meal, the value of having clean water. You know, and if you look at the dairy sector, when they're saying, some of the consultants in America saying, if you won't go in and put a cup in the cattle drinker and drink it yourself, then why would you expect your cows to drink it? And beef cattle need water the same as dairy cattle, so you need to have clean water. If you want to maximize intake and maximize performance, they need to have room to eat. That's room at the feed barrier and room to lie down. So if some of them are eating and some of them are lying, you shouldn't have to stand on top of your friend to get your dinner. So the cattle need to have the space to be able to feed and lie down properly. So that feed area, is it smooth? Is where the feed's lying, especially if you're feeding meal, you know, is it concrete that's 30 years old and the stones, so if they're licking that or touching it with their nose, that's sore. So if you have to put a wee bit of concrete or something, fix that up. It's well worth doing. Are they reaching down or reaching up to eat? How often do you sweep in front of them the stuff that was there? Do they splash water over the feed whenever they're getting water? So those are just practical things, and you all know that. And when you go home, you'll think, I should have done that. But do that in the morning. Just walk around and say, is it clean water? Is it smooth where they're eating? Is it at the right height? Have they enough space? Just a quick example, just a couple of points then. A quick example, if you're going to target 1.2 kilograms on a 500 kilogram bullock or steer, if you have good silage, it's cheaper. The main point of that, if you're feeding good silage, you feed less meal, and that's cheaper, and you make more money. It's as simple as that. There's no other point in that. Better silage, less meal, more money for you. That table is quite complicated. There's a couple of points I wanted to make on it, and very simple points. If you're looking here, we talked about knowing your markets and the price of animals. So we have roughly 100 cows at the hill farm, shorthorn, Angus and Limb in a rotation. And some of the shorthorns and some of the Angus are sold through the schemes. So they're finished. The best of the heifers will be kept for breeding. So it's not a scientific trial, it's just to make a few points about this. So if we're looking at the shorthorn heifers there, going to the shorthorn scheme, they're 32 pence a kilo more than the Limousin heifers there. Now, it costs more to get them there because they have to finish at above fat class 4 equals. But if they meet the spec, and that's what was actually paid, I don't know what the bonus was supposed to be. The Angus heifers made about 13 pence a kilo more than the Limousin heifers, and that translates. So I don't know what the gross margin was, but having those heifers and putting them through the scheme and meeting the spec meant that we got more for them, and the amount more than covered the extra feed, so that meant a higher gross margin, higher profit. You'll notice here on the shorthorn steers, heifers we got plus 32, the steers we only got plus 10. The target for those steers was 380, so we missed target on a lot of the steers, and they went out at the standard steer price. So a lot of the steers just some of that was the fault of the folks at Greenmount. Some of it was the fault that of them buying, that they just weren't able to take them in time. So we couldn't get them booked in. By the time they were ready to take them, the cattle were out of spec. So there's a wee bit about market and a wee bit about working with who's buying them, but we have control over that, a lot more control than you'd think. So what market are you aiming at? Are you producing bulls? Have you got a market? What are you going to get for them? Heifer, steers? Can you get into any of the schemes? Whatever it is. So don't be fooled into thinking that you have absolutely no control. So if you hit the spec, right fat class, right weight, into the niche market, there is an impact on the price and the profit for that. I know it's difficult to put up a budget, and again, you could argue about all of this. I did a simple budget, buying a 550 kilo steer at 180 a kilo, feeding it 20 kilograms of silage and 6 kilograms of concentrate, allowing a little bit for vet and meds, your variable costs, so not taking into any account any of the fixed costs, and getting a total cost of £1,187. If he does 1.2 a day for 90 days, getting into 670 kilos, killing it at 55, 369 kilo carcass, at 325 a kilo, which is what the R3 price is today, roughly that's what it was, an output of 11.99, leaving you a margin of £12. Now, whenever you look at that, that doesn't sound good, and I was warned not to put it up, but I'm thinking, there is some, so plus or minus 10p in the beef price, plus or minus 10p in the buying price. So if you get them for 170, that leaves you an extra £55. If you're borrowing the money, you have to make an allowance for interest. But if you're going to buy cattle, do you know what you're going to get for them? So do the budgets. So especially if you're going to go out of spec. So if you're going to kill them too heavy or too light and lose 6p a kilo because it's not in the right fat class, or 10p a kilo because it's not in the right fat class, or 50p a kilo because it's over age, you really can't afford to do that. So the margin is going to be tight, so you have to do everything possible. So you might buy your meal a little bit cheaper. If you have really good silage, you might feed more silage and less meal and you'll make more money. But do a budget. So it's not about this budget and about the fact that I've only put £12 there. Your budget will be for your farm and it'll be different than that. So the quick summary of that, know what silage quality you have, how much you have, do the budgets. There is a wee bit in compensatory growth. How much do your animals actually need to hit the target that you're after for them? Make sure you're feeding a good quality concentrate, and that if they've been grazed well and you have good silage, then you will improve profit. And that's the most important thing. You'll improve profit. You will also, as an aside to that, improve your carbon footprint and whatever, but it's mostly about profit as far as I'm concerned, because if you don't make a profit, you're not doing anything else. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ciaran.